It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce, Michael, and Riley. I know a story of high strangeness or two. Let's do this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
and our ultra-terrestrial producer,
Riley Bray.
We're back in the clubhouse.
Ow.
We're back in the clubhouse in the woods. We have no guest this week, everyone, but fear not, we are doing a deep dive, part one of a deep dive, because I dove in a little too deep. We're going to actually talk about history in today's episode.
We're going educational, huh?
Yeah, this might be the most scholastic high strangeness I've ever done.
Okay. My curiosity is piqued.
Yeah, I'm worried Bryce is going to tune out about halfway through. It's great, though, all right? It's a classic cryptid, and we're dipping and diving into the origin stories. Riley, before we get started, we got to check in with you because, not to date this episode, but you were in the path of totality of the solar eclipse this past week.
I was.
How'd it go? Where were you? Tell us all about it.
I was in Austin, Texas. My family are all like eclipse nerds.
No way, really?
Yeah. So like we all met up for the last one, but we went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming for that one. And then for this one, it was 16 of us, and we all went to Austin, Texas. And it was such a crazy whirlwind.
Oh my God.
Getting in and getting out. The weather turned on us, and it was very cloudy. And the whole time I just kept being like, you know what, guys? Like, I just think there's going to be the clouds are just going to part, and we're just going to get an amazing show. And that is exactly what happened.
Whoa.
It was so dramatic, and the clouds actually made for almost like a filter for when I was like taking photos. Like it was giving me all these different looks and colors, and it was so cool. And
how do you guys observe it? Do you set up a camera there, or?
Well, that's the whole thing with like experiencing totality in an eclipse. Like if you've never actually seen it, it's really hard to describe how profound it actually is, because anything short of totality, with the naked eye, it still just sort of looks like it's day. It just seems a little odd. Like maybe if the clouds pass, you can sort of notice, or if you look at it with those special glasses.
Yeah, I do the binoculars upside down so that I can see it on the ground.
It to the ground. Yeah. But in totality, and we were in there for I think just shy of 4 minutes, which is crazy long. The moment that it perfectly lines up, everything falls dark, and you can just look at it with your bare eye, and just you see the corona of the sun, and you could see the flares coming off the sun that are like
the pillars.
Yeah, those pillars are towers of fire, like bigger than the earth.
Wow.
And it's just this little line. It's just like, it just hits you in this way that's just, it's overwhelming. And it was great. We were at this, shout out to Oasis Brewing, Austin, Texas. I met their social media guy. He was really nice. But we went there because it was overlooking Lake Travis, which is like outside of Austin a little bit, and had this balcony, and it was good for us because we didn't want to go to like a field because we had like small children, and at 16 of us, it was like we need like facilities and like beer and food like for this to keep a family happy. So we went there, and they had like a eclipse party, so it was a pretty full balcony of people. But so it's pretty great being in a crowd when it happens, because the reaction people have to it is people just start screaming and shouting and laughing and crying, and it's just like, it's truly wild.
Crying? Who was crying at this?
I am a little emotional.
Did you get a little emotional?
A little emotional. Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's
it hits
special.
you on a primal level. It's hard to explain. It really is. Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. I love that you're sort of taking this astronomical event and turning it into a time to get together and making it like an occasion.
Yeah.
So many people, even me, I just sort of like, I almost forgot it. I happened to like check my Google, and it was like 11:08. I was like, oh shit, that's right now. Let me and I was like, let me go. Maybe I'll observe that. I totally
It didn't really do anything here in LA.
Yeah, we were really far from totality here.
I went to, what was the one that you were in Jackson Hole for, was that a solar eclipse
That
in
was
like 2017?
Yeah, I think it was 17.
18, around there?
Right around that. I forget. But yeah.
Because I was in the Path of Totality for that, because it came
Such
right
a
over Kansas
fucking metal
City.
title,
Awesome.
Path of Totality.
It was cool. It's
that's
and
a
it's cool
song.
because like all the animals go quiet, like all the birds stop singing, and all, because it feels like it's nighttime for a minute. It's really wild.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, 2026, going to Mallorca for that one.
Oh, yeah?
I want to go.
That's when the little alien came in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yep.
That plant that likes to eat
Otter
people
too.
during a total eclipse of the
And
sun.
as Derek Hayes pointed out, that most lizard man sightings take place during eclipse.
Oh, no way,
during the
really?
eclipse, yeah.
Can this
or
go on our
eclipses.
Alaskan Wolf Bros album? I think so.
Path of Totality?
Path
Yeah.
of Totality. That's a total Wolf
That's
Bros
good.
song.
That's a Wolf Brothers song right
Path
there.
of Totality.
Well, you know, astronomy is a player in today's deep dive,
Okay.
as we're going to get into. We're doing the Jersey Devil, everybody.
Shit.
We're doing the Jersey
We
Devil.
teased it at the end of last year.
About time.
I'm a little late getting to it in 2024, but here it is. And you know what? I decided to go
Jersey Devil.
guest list so we could really dig into this one. I decided that, you know, a guy like Jersey Devil needs an episode all to himself
Maybe
or
even
herself.
two. Yeah.
That would be one of those episodes where the guest just sort of sat there
Yeah, as I
uncomfortably.
talk to them
lecture
as I'm about to like school both of you.
Right.
Before we get to it, Riley, why don't we nominate our 5-star Club Scout of the Week? This is someone who left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, which, you know, may not be the podcast app of your choice as you're about to hear, but it helps get the show to more people.
Well, they say, love these big hairy boys. I never listened to podcasts on Apple. There you go. But logged on just to leave 5 stars. Overcast is so much better and simpler.
Click plug.
I love that they plugged another platform. Good job. Okay. Love how BCC is equal parts well-researched info and goofiness. They approach stories with an openness and refreshing lack of self-seriousness. Not only that, but listening motivated me to rewatch True Blood, me too actually, and Crazy X, 2 of my all-time faves. And Riley's music recs are always on point. The darts are my new go-to workout jams. Oh, right on, the darts of an Alternative Tentacles band. I started listening in the fall and am almost caught up, so I'll probably be joining the other side soon. 5 stars.
That was from the Chaw. The
Beautiful
Chaw.
review. Layered, you know, just really
I love it.
hit a lot of notes.
Somebody else gave us a 2-star review that was like, is this a show about the paranormal or about 3 guys living in Los Angeles being actors?
Both.
It's both.
It's both. You're in the club. They were like, this makes me hate living. Like, this reminds me why I hate living in LA. And I was like, get out. We don't want you.
You can leave.
You can leave.
There's too much traffic.
You can
Go
leave our
away.
review section and you can leave Los Angeles.
It's funny that they were bothered enough to go online,
It's like
search that
just
and write it.
It's like just enough stars to leave a review. Well,
Yeah.
I'll do the 2.
You can have 2, I guess.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Riley, we do this before every deep dive series, and I think this one's just going to be a 2-parter.
Okay.
So don't,
Just a 2-parter.
Just a
Just a
2-parter.
little light
Thank
2-parter.
God.
Just a light 2-parter, like
You
the
do not need
abominable
4
snowman.
episodes about this fucking dog, this devil dog, this
not a dog.
tri-state devil dog.
Wait, do you think? Time out. I was going to ask Riley about the Jersey Devil, but let's ask both of you. Do
Yeah.
you think the Jersey Devil's a dog?
No, I don't. Looking back, I think it's. We should ask Riley because
Riley, we ask you before every deep dive series.
Yeah.
What do you know off the top of your dome about the Jersey Devil?
Truly nothing.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Maybe a little bit. But I know that there is a hockey team in New Jersey
Yes.
called
Yes,
the Devils.
Jersey Devils. Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I went to hockey games, and I like hockey. Other than that, it's what? Wait, it had goat feet and wings. I want to say
Sure. Yeah.
maybe
Good.
a tail.
Yeah.
Red, gonna guess.
It could be. I don't
Okay.
think we have a specific color.
We're talking early 1900s.
You know what? In part 2, we're going to be talking a lot about the early 1900s.
Okay.
For
Riley, I
part
think
1,
you're doing
we
well.
are spending.
Shooting
Yeah,
from
not
the
bad.
hip here.
Yeah, nice work.
But we're going to be spending most of our time in this episode in the 17th and 18th century.
Oh dear.
Good.
That's how far back it goes.
Cool.
Bryce, you ready?
Yeah,
Riley, you ready?
I'm stoked.
Scour the internet for the Jersey Devil, and you'll find plenty stories. Many feature unwitting campers hearing strange, piercing screams emanating from the depths of New Jersey's Pine Barrens. Occasionally, you'll find eyewitness accounts like this one from Weird New Jersey's website.
Let me tell you of a sighting of the Jersey Devil. I was driving up Route 9 in Bayville at around 10 p.m. There were 2 cars in front of me, and we were traveling about 35 miles per hour. To the right of Route 9 is a mini-mall type building with woods behind it. To the right is just all woods. All of a sudden, I saw this big thing running across Route 9. It looked like one of the classic pictures of the Jersey Devil. It had no tail, no fur, its ribs showed, and it had a long, odd head with short ears that laid flat. It looked almost 10 feet tall. I noticed it because the first car stopped on its brakes, as it did the second car. And when I looked ahead, I saw this thing galloping across Route 9 and straight into the woods. I was not really scared because I didn't really register it yet. I stopped at the mall.
No, to mail something.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to go to the mall first, but I do remember stopping to mail something in the mailbox about 300 feet from the main road, and I saw a child's shirt, shorts, and one sneaker lying on the ground. I mailed my letter, ran into my car, and laid rubber all the way home.
Cool.
He just saw some kids' clothes and got scared.
I'm out of here.
That's fucking creepy.
I was certain that I had seen the Jersey Devil. No one believes me. They say it was a deer. Now, I've never seen a fucking deer that big, that fast, or that weird looking in my life. What is really creepy is that the other 2 people driving in front of me stepped on their brakes. So they must have seen it too. Sonny Z.
Sonny Z from New Jersey, seen the Jersey Devil. It's not a deer with mange. It's not a deer with mange.
Yeah, that was an
You saw a
opportunity
fucking
for
deer.
a
It's probably a fucking deer.
Yeah,
A hungry one.
That could have been the whole read right there. Just remember
I
where we
avoided
are.
that.
Yeah, let's remember where we are.
Are you
We're in-
saying missed opportunity? Usually I get
I like the-
scolded for such.
I like the dramatic read.
All right,
That's good.
I can throw some Jersey in there.
A little Jersey.
The Jersey Devil holds a firm place in the pantheon of famous cryptids, slotted alongside the likes of Bigfoot, Nessie, Mothman, and Chupacabra. The Jersey Devil is a fairly well-known monster even to mainstream audiences. As Riley pointed out, it even has its own NHL team. However, I imagine that few of our listeners, nay, even the hosts of this show, truly know much about the monster's origins.
I don't.
Well, make a fire, load your corncob pipes, and sit back in your rocking chairs. It's time for the first BCC deep dive of 2024, the Jersey Devil.
Let's do it.
The Jersey Devil is a chimera-based cryptid that is said to have haunted and hunted New Jersey's famous Pine Barrens, a massive 1.1 million acre coastal pine forest ecosystem for the last 289 years. This makes the Jersey Devil quite possibly the oldest cataloged American cryptid, predating the founding of the Republic itself.
Shut up. Really?
Well, if you think about it,
Yeah.
I mean, Bigfoot stories didn't start really, Sasquatch didn't really start coming in as Sasquatch or Bigfoot until this past century.
Right.
Until the 20th century.
This guy's OG.
Primarily depicted as a bipedal, horse-like monster with pointed horns and a leathery bat-like wings, the Jersey Devil was originally known as the Leeds Devil, whose origin story goes a little something like this. In 1735, Mother Leeds, a witch and wife of one Captain Leeds of New Jersey, at this time just one of the 13 colonies, was giving birth to her 13th child in their home near Leeds Point.
Oh, this is metal already. I love this.
13 children?
During the excruciating labor, Mother Leeds cried out, "Let this one be a devil!" And lo, a monster was born from her womb. In some versions of the story, the devilish creature flew up the chimney and escaped immediately into the Pine Barrens.
Can I stop right
Bryce
here?
is raising his hand.
Yeah. Well, why do you think on this 13th child she was like, let this one be a
she
devil?
she had
She's
too many
had it?
kids.
Yeah.
She'd
She'd had it.
Seal my
Enough.
womb
We're
after
done
this
here.
devil. Right, we're done here. Okay.
it
Or do you think
down.
it was maybe the number 13 or I don't know. I
This
love
is
it,
the
though.
legend. We're gonna get into
This is
it.
What
great.
an
What a
origin
good start.
story.
Okay, good. Sorry,
Keep it-
Michael.
keep-
Go ahead.
Keep it cooking. You just
Later-
puff on that corncob pipe.
Yeah.
Later versions of the story of the Leeds Devil, as our subject would be known for roughly 175 years of its lifespan, included scenes like the beast being fired upon by the cannon of Stephen Decatur, legendary U.S. naval officer, or seen zipping around the skies above Point Breeze, the home of Joseph Bonaparte, the former king of Spain and Napoleon's brother.
Whoa, that is a historical fact I didn't know.
dope.
Former king of Spain was Napoleon's brother?
Yep. And he, after Napoleon lost at Waterloo, he moved to the colonies, and he lived in what was New Jersey. And he had a mansion there.
I must have cut that day in European history.
Yeah. And I think he moved back to Europe eventually, or moved to like South America. I can't remember.
So
We're
this
already
thing was
learning
seen
so
in the
much.
skies and on the ground.
On the skies and the ground, and in other versions of this. So there are two versions, basically. One where the creature's born and it immediately flies up the chimney, and then there's other versions where the creature
That's so
hangs
cool.
out for a couple years as a child in the family and then escapes into the Pine
That's
Barrens.
a short film. That
I
30
was just
minutes
thinking the
right
same
there.
thing.
From womb to up the chimney. Fuck yeah.
In like
I'd rent
90s
that.
style practical effects. Like that
Totally.
little.
Yes.
Amazing.
Well done.
The history of the Jersey Devil is, well, loaded with history, and this deep dive is meant to look at the real origins of the monster. Our primary resource for this one is The Secret History of the Jersey Devil by Brian Regal and Frank J. Esposito. And while they argue that the story you just heard is likely total horsepucky, the story of the Jersey Devil is truly a fascinating look into the creation of one of America's earliest cryptids. In this deep dive series, we'll take a look at how the monster's origins trace back to the Quaker community and how it became such a popular cryptid today. And while the lore seems highly questionable, people have reported seeing something lurking out in the Pine Barrens, just like Sunny Z talked about. But is it a flying horse demon that walks on two legs? Let's dive in. To understand the Jersey Devil, we have to understand the time and place in which the monster was born. Now, I'm going to be covering this next section in broad general terms, but I hope to paint a snapshot of the life in the colonies in the century leading up to the American Revolution. Even though legends say the monster was born in 1735 to one Mother Leeds, we need to rewind the clock back about 50 or 60 years earlier and look at what was going on in New Jersey during the mid to late 1600s.
You are pulling a real David Copperfield with this one.
We're really doing it.
Yeah, all the way back.
In 1664, the Dutch lost control of New Netherlands to the British, who added the land to their colonies. For a while, New Jersey was split into East and West Jersey. Before the invasion of European colonists, the land, and the Pine Barrens specifically, was home to the indigenous Lenape Nation. The Europeans who settled the area were struck by the Lenape's belief in nature spirits who populated the Pine Barrens. One such entity, known as Msing, a horned deer-like forest god, was perceived by European Christians as being satanic or Luciferian.
Righteous.
It's so important to note that we cannot underestimate how much religion and superstition was tied up into politics and to tribal identity at this time. In fact, while doing research about this time period, it made me realize how little has truly changed in America. But I digress.
You're baiting those 2-star reviews right there.
The New Jersey of the mid to late 17th century was settled by religious groups who had fled the Church of England in hopes of finding religious freedom in the New World. And as it should come to as a surprise to absolutely no one, these different groups did not get along. You had European settlers clashing with indigenous people and their religions, with the royal crown that governed the colonies, with one another and within themselves. And all of this tension was amplified by the innovation of the printing press, which allowed the most literate, and the most elite of each of these different religious groups and free thinkers to lob insults and wage culture wars in a proto-version of people trolling one another on social media. So we have many cultures clashing in a small area, which is even more amplified because it's primarily literal wilderness. This is also the period of time when the witch trials were beginning to brew in Massachusetts. Those were being conducted by the hardlined and ultra-conservative Puritans. New Jersey boasted a healthy population of the more progressive Quakers, who set up their communities further south along the eastern coastline because they didn't want to be around the Puritans, who they'd fled England to get away from in the first place.
Right.
Puritans saw themselves as the defenders of God's law. They were essentially an elite ruling class. Mixed in with other Protestant groups, you also had the Anglicans, essentially those who worshiped the traditional Church of England, who were seen by the Puritans as basically Catholics still. Quakers believed that everyone had a voice and access to the Spirit of God and had a strong distaste for materialism.
Love that.
Yeah, they were kind of cool. I mean, like, on face value, they were pretty. They were definitely more of the hippie version of religion at the time. And you would see people. They said that you would see sometimes Quakers walking down the street naked with nothing but like a dish covering their private
I love
parts.
that.
Chill.
They're like, that's why we came here. Fucking,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
America, right?
Right?
I
Right?
mean, I am in America, right?
And everyone in the Quaker church had a voice too. It was sort of like a more democratic religion, I guess you would say.
I love that.
The Quakers began as a society of friends during the English Civil Wars in 1647. They got their nickname because they claimed to shake with the inner light of the Lord. William Penn, who Pennsylvania was named after, big-time Quaker. Now, just because the Quakers were a bit more progressive than the Puritans, that didn't mean they didn't have their own superstitions about and fascination with the devil, witches, and the occult.
Cool.
In general, fascination with devils and monsters was pretty trendy during this time period. For one, the scientific revolution was making people rethink how they perceived birth defects. For centuries, and a lot of other things, but birth defects are important to the story.
Yeah, I see where you're going already.
For centuries, when a mother would give birth to a deformed child, it was generally considered to be a punishment from God. But naturalists were beginning to think that maybe birth defects might have something less to do with God's wrath and more to do with what was happening to the fetus during its gestation process. Also during this period, illustrated monstariums, pamphlets featuring woodcuts of a wide variety of strange monsters allegedly walking the earth, were very popular and likely read and seen by literate colonists who had arrived in the New World.
Song number 3.
I was like, you're writing down Monstarium.
Yeah,
That's for
Monstarium.
sure.
What the fuck is that?
These
word?
are those,
That
you know,
is
those like
awesome.
woodcut drawings of like
yeah.
men with like two heads or like a face on their stomach.
Totally.
Or stuff that looks like the Jersey Devil, like weird two-legged animals with leathery bat wings. These things were being passed around in this time because people were really starting to wonder, do monsters exist? And they thought that monsters might exist in the New World because it hadn't been fully explored by Europeans yet. Cool. And so they're just a bunch of cool looking, like, kind of
Woodcuts.
early, like heavy metal woodcut illustrations
Yeah,
of
like
just
all-
like creatures.
Albrecht Dürer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Monsters were in, birth defects were a hot topic, and the devil, in the form of an indigenous god, was lurking in the Pine Barrens. The mother giving birth to monsters motif was very relevant to Quakers specifically, and was typically linked to current events in the heated climate of religious politics in the colonies. For example, there was a woman named Anne Hutchinson, whose story sounds similar to that of Mother Leeds' character in the Jersey Devil origin story. Anne Hutchinson was a radical who railed against puritanical rule in Massachusetts. She was arrested and exiled from Boston. And shortly after her exile, she gave birth to what was her 16th child.
Come on.
And delivered instead a lumpy mass.
Oh,
People,
16 is too many.
feels like the limit, doesn't
too
it?
many.
Yeah.
Puritans, claimed that she had given birth to a monster. but it was more likely what doctors would call today a hydatid form mole, an abnormal pregnancy which occurs when non-viable fertilized egg implants in the uterus. Around this time, one of her proteges, Mary Dyer, gave birth to a deformed child, a reminder from God that women should know their place. By the way, Anne Hutchinson would ultimately be executed by the Puritans in 1643 for converting to Quakerism.
Sounds about right.
We just want to make double sure we deal with her correctly.
Yes, by killing.
We're going to go ahead and burn you at the stake.
Let's
just to be sure.
Just to be sure.
In 1668, a law was passed in East Jersey proclaiming, "If any person be found a witch, either male or female, they shall be put to death."
Progressive.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? I want to look up. What do you think the Guinness Book of World's Record is for a woman giving birth to the most offspring, most children?
Find out.
That is something we can know.
It's probably going to be around like 30.
No.
I bet it's wild.
That's insane.
I
That's
bet it's
got to be
wild.
like 2 to 3 births a year.
Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.
Twins in there,
Well,
1 or 2.
If she started young and she lived to...
44 children.
No.
Told you.
Across 15 births from 1993 to 2016.
Oh, that's recently.
Yeah.
Because you can also have more than one kid, at the same time.
Miriam Nabatanzi.
Wow, that's incredible.
Wild.
I would argue too many children.
Yeah.
44. That's too
You
many.
could repopulate a small town to city to, if you're giving birth at that rate,
Yeah, but then they're all going to procreate
Well, I know
with each
that-
other?
yeah.
Wait, also now I'm getting, someone else says a Russian woman had 69 children.
That's nuts. 69,
my
baby.
cousin Olga, she has 69. She wins already. She does win.
One of them
Valentina.
flies. I took video.
Vasilieva.
Number 13 is devil, of course, but everything else is fine.
Straight up chimney with that one.
With straight up chimney. Unbelievable.
Oddly enough, she did not stop at 13. She kept going.
She kept going.
After
Best-
she had devil, she said, "I want more."
Best dramatic 30 minutes of my life.
I have 53 more children.
Wish I had camcorder.
So all of this talk of witches and devils had real-life consequences. In 1675, a witch trial took place in East Jersey where one Abigail Sharp was accused by Abraham Shotwell of being a shape-shifting witch who he witnessed returning home from flying all night, landing in a bean field, and shape-shifting into a cat and walking around on his roof.
How do you defend against that?
She was like, I didn't do
no.
that. Yeah, literally. That's
no.
what she's like. I didn't do any of those things. Also, I
Well,
love
just
that
to be sure.
I just love
Just
that
to be
this
sure.
We're going to burn you at the stake.
crazy old man sees a cat on his roof. He's like, that's a woman.
Right.
That's a woman walking around on my roof.
That's my neighbor.
Dude, I gotta. Last night,
Go on.
Okay.
dude, Dawn wakes me up and grabs my arm. There's someone on the roof.
What?
Yes,
Oh,
and
no.
tap tap,
What?
it felt like you could hear it. It felt like just foot dancing or it was crazy.
Was it an animal?
She's like, go out and look. And I was like, okay. And I open up the back door and I walk out my back and I look up onto my roof.
What
and
weapon did you bring with you?
No, I was in my underwear, dude. Just fucking
The
straight
only
up
weapon you
underwear.
need,
The only
brother.
weapon I needed. And I see this
big, thick
silhouette.
stick.
This thing was huge.
What?
The pointy ears,
What
the
was it?
cat silhouette. It was like
It was a cat?
It was like
Saving
a
this for
devil
now.
cat.
You
dude.
saw
was a
the
witch.
Jersey
And
Devil
then,
on your
thank
roof.
God there wasn't glowing eyes or I would have shit myself. But then I see this other this form come in behind it. And it's and then there's 2 of them now. And I see 2 heads. And oh my God, I was starting to communicate. Hey, what are you guys doing up there? And then they started fucking. And then I went back in.
The cat started
I think
fucking
so.
on
Was
your
it
roof?
cats or
I think
raccoons? It
so.
was cats?
Yeah.
I think it might have been raccoons or cats. But if it was raccoons,
Either way, they were fucking.
if
It's
it was a
probably
raccoon, I would have
raccoons.
seen the reflective eye. I would have think.
Well,
but-
cats have those
Yeah,
too.
they have that too. But anyway,
Cool.
Great.
Yeah, it was
Great
cool.
sidebar.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Sorry. Back to Jersey Devil and burning witches.
So, who were the leads of the Jersey Devil legend? Well, there is no record of a Captain Leeds or his wife, the witch known as Mother Leeds, or their brood anywhere on historical record. So, they're likely fictitious. But there was a famous Quaker, Daniel Leeds, whose name was made monstrous for his own political activity in New Jersey. Daniel Leeds was born in England in 1652. His parents, Thomas and Martha, were Thomas and Mary. This isn't Batman and Superman. Thomas and Mary were devout Anglicans for about the first. My mom's name's Martha too.
Yes. Beat me to it.
Thomas and Mary were devout Anglicans for about the first decade of young Daniel's life. He embraced religion. His favorite pastime was the nightly prayer sessions he would share with his mother. Then, Daniel's parents discovered the Society of Friends and converted to Quakerism. While they thrived in their new community due to the Quaker-held belief that all members should come into the sect upon their own free will when they're ready, they did not force their son Daniel to convert. Suddenly, the boy was untethered from his religious practice, which led to a bit of a depression. Daniel became disassociated from organized religion, but his spiritual practice needed an outlet, and it soon found one, or rather, it found Daniel. When he was 12 years old, Daniel experienced the first of what he believed to be many visions. He witnessed the image of Christ descending from the sky and reawakening his spirit. This strange experience ignited a flame in young Daniel, a fervent, lifelong interest in mysticism.
Cool.
Growing up in the age of the scientific revolution, Daniel became very interested in how science and God worked together. Daniel was smart and literate, but it does not seem that he received a formal education at any university. He appears to have been self-taught, propelled by a deep thirst for knowledge. Some of his biggest influences were figures like Francis Bacon and the German philosopher and Christian mystic Joseph Bohm. When Daniel was 20 years old, he experienced another vision of God, a characteristic of Bohm, who also claimed to experience mystical visions. And young Leeds wrestled internally with why he should be granted such visions as he continued to find his relationship to God and ultimately salvation. He would take long walks and spend time in solitude in nature, often weeping and worrying about the fate of his soul. According to authors Regal and Esposito, Daniel took inspiration from the writings of John Bohm and Francis Bacon, one of the fathers of the scientific revolution. Bacon replaced the tradition of scholasticism, narrow-minded insistence in traditional doctrine or dogma.
He also wrote the entire works of Shakespeare.
Well,
so there's that
debatable.
too.
With a new approach based upon empiricism and inductive reasoning. This, he argues, would provide a methodology for investigating nature with the aim of producing reliable, fact-based knowledge useful for the betterment of man. So again, going back to, let's just not say this deformed person was a curse by God. Let's try to figure out why this happened.
I love where this is headed, though. It sounds like this Daniel Leeds guy is.
You would really like Daniel, like Bryce.
Yeah.
There's a bit of Bryce Johnson in this young Daniel.
I can see where this is going. He's having some experiences.
Yep. Daniel was trying to work out how Bacon, Bohm, and his mystical experiences might be combined to better understand the universe. He was an esoteric who would explore beliefs that math, science, and astrology were all keys to unlocking God. Around the same time, Quakers were experiencing worsening oppression in England, and his father Thomas was arrested and possibly held in prison in the Tower of London for practicing his religion.
Fuckers.
It was during this event that Daniel experienced another vision of Christ so mystical and so personal that, quote, no pen can or ought to write about or tongue to share. Despite those feelings, he did try sharing his experience with the Anglican Church, who brushed him off. It was then that his parents, seeing him struggle, introduced Daniel to the Society of Friends, who accepted him and made him a Quaker. Having once again found religious brotherhood, in 1677, Daniel Leeds, a recent widower, and he would be married 4 times and outlived all of his wives, made his way to West Jersey to the Quaker community of Burlington. Burlington had been recently founded by famous Quakers like George Fox and William Penn, who purchased the land from the indigenous people. Quakers ran the area, and they did not like to be challenged. Unfortunately for Daniel, his relationship would eventually turn sour with the Friends of Society, paving the way for the birth of the Jersey Devil.
Killer.
When trying to find a historical individual who might be Mother Leeds, one would assume this would be the wife of Daniel Leeds. However, Daniel married 4 times and was 3 times a widower. No historical records show, actually I think it was 4 times, I need to check myself there, sorry everybody. No historical records show that any of his children were born deformed, nor did he marry anyone ever accused of witchcraft. If anyone was seen dabbling in the occult, it was Daniel himself.
Yeah.
The problem started when Daniel, who was living prosperously as a land surveyor in the New World, published an almanac. After becoming successful, Daniel bought land outside of Burlington along the coast and built a large plantation for his family, an area that was called Leeds Point, the
How did he
future
get
birthplace
successful again?
of the Jersey Devil.
Oh, sorry.
He was a surveyor.
Okay.
He was a land surveyor, and he was just like a local. He just did really well.
Gotcha.
Smart guy, and he would play different roles and have different jobs throughout his life. But there was like one printing press in the area, and the guy, I forgot his name, is like William Bradford or something like that. He basically was like, I'll print up an almanac for you. This is like, he really wanted to write. He really wanted to
amazing.
Do this stuff.
So Daniel buys land along that eastern coast on Jersey too.
And he just moved right outside of the town of Burlington, and he had a huge plot of land called Leeds Point.
Okay, great.
And he had a mansion there. He had a big house there, and he had tons of kids, and all of his sons like grew up, and they all kind of lived on that compound with him.
How old is he around this time? Maybe
around
40s?
this time, he moved to the New World, I think, in his like late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
So we're jumping around in the timeline a little bit.
Sure, of course. But 40s, 50s probably.
Yeah, he's about our age, I would imagine.
Great. This is great.
Let's see. 1687, he was born in, what did I say? 1652?
Ooh, don't make me do the horse.
So, yeah, he's in his 30s.
35.
He's in his mid 30s here.
Great.
So, let me get back to where I was. Leeds, the Almanac, spelled with a K, of 1687 was in fact the very first almanac published in New Jersey. Back then, almanacs looked more like newspapers, large one-sheets with printing on both sides, mapping out the celestial events and weather for the year, helping farmers and plantation owners plan their crops. However, Daniel, an esoteric at heart, laced his almanac with zodiac signs and other astrological interpretations seen as pagan by his fellow Quakers.
So he started the Farmer's Almanac, which continues to this day.
He didn't start the Farmer's Almanac. There were other almanacs.
Oh, but this was the time when that got started.
His was the first in New Jersey, in the Jersey colonies. Wow. He borrowed a lot of his formatting from almanacs that existed in England. But
right, of course, that's been going on since the beginning of the print.
Yeah, but he was like really into the process of the stars and the eclipses, all this stuff. He kept track. He thought he was very good at that stuff. And some people said his horse math was kind of off, and he would get made fun of a little bit. But he was really, because he had such a vested interest in the stars, and he had this mysticism side to him. So he was really into astrology. After the almanac was published, the Quaker Church scolded Daniel for the use of the zodiac and the many references to Greco-Roman gods and symbology. Leeds was forced to make a public apology to the elders of the church in front of the congregation, and this punishment made him feel deeply humiliated, and it would create a rift between him and the friends of society. Instead of backing down,
I thought it was Society of Friends. It's
Society of Friends. I think it might be the Society of Friends.
You said that earlier, and then I noticed you switched it.
Yeah,
and then I was like, did he just switch this?
The Society of Friends. Thank you.
I wasn't sure.
I'll just go back and we'll do the Society of Friends, and we'll just go back and put it in every time I got it wrong.
Here, though, so everybody knows.
Yeah. Instead of backing down, Leeds doubled down. His next work was not an almanac, but an entire book about the scientific revolution and his esoteric means of understanding God. Published in 1688, Leeds' esoteric tome, The Temple of Wisdom for the Little World, was the first book printed in New Jersey, and Leeds' attempt to school his community on a better understanding of angels, astrology, symbolism, theology, natural magic, and devils. He also took heavy passages from the world and works of Boehme and Bacon and fit them into his narrative, as well as bits from philosopher John Hayden, who wrote about the ancient lost art of natural magic passed down by the secret society of the Rosicrucians. And Bryce, just for the record...
You could still read this book, The Temple of Wisdom. It's on a PDF form.
For the record, Leeds himself never made any direct mention of the Rosicrucians, but clearly was influenced
a Rosicrucian
by others who did.
Yeah, he was probably in the Secret Brotherhood for sure.
For sure.
Sadly, the book received little to zero notoriety.
That's wild.
To make matters even worse, the book created a huge scandal in Burlington. Leeds was once again in trouble with the Quaker Church. A public apology wouldn't do this time. The Quakers rounded up every copy of the book except one. Every copy they could find, they burned them all. And there's only one existing original copy from that period.
And now we have it on our cell phones.
Yep.
Thank God.
Yeah.
The rift between the Quakers and Daniel Leeds became an all-out war.
Wow, not so chill anymore, Quakers, huh?
Yeah,
what happened to the
totally.
naked loincloth,
I
Quakers?
know. What happened to that dude?
You're already burning
exactly.
books? God.
I know.
Yeah, what happened to Richard Dickblade?
Dick Blade had cool zodiacal signs on his loincloth. Yeah. He was down with it.
He
What
was
the fuck?
down. What happened? It used to be cool, Quakers.
Damn. Wow, I'm loving history right now. Yeah, this is good history. This is fun.
Right on. I was a little worried you might zone out.
No,
but
this is
we're
like
into it.
I knew
OG
if I threw in
cryptid origin story.
if I threw in a little Rosicrucian talk, I would get your
got me.
attention.
It's true.
Yeah.
Pique the
It's
interest
true.
every 5
But no,
minutes. or so.
this is like the OG cryptid origin story supreme.
Mm-hmm.
While Leeds continued to publish his almanac, now known as the Leeds Almanac, to great success, he spent the rest of the year on the political attack, writing more books and printing pamphlets trolling Quaker leaders like George Fox, one of the founders of Burlington. Leeds' heel turn on the Society of Friends was fueled by a schism already taking hold of the church, led by former Friend member George Keith. This was known as the Keith Schism. There was like a civil war between Quakers who wanted to be more progressive and Quakers who were too conservative in their eyes.
Gotcha.
The pamphlet war that took place over the 1690s played out like a Twitter battle between political rivals, but just stretched out over the course of a decade. Leeds would write an expose called The Great Mystery of Foxcraft Discovered, accusing Quaker George Fox of
She's
scandalous
just asking
misdoings.
to be burned.
Caleb Pusey, a conservative Quaker, and Miller responded with some brief observation made on Daniel Leeds, his book entitled The Second Part of the Mystery of Foxcraft, a title which seemed to belie the claim of the subject's briefness. Leeds responded to that with the much more succinctly titled A Challenge to Caleb Pusey, and so on and so forth it went.
What
Tit
a waste of
for tat.
energy for these guys, right?
It's
just
all
like,
them trying to publicly humiliate
go
the other
build
person.
a barn or something.
This is like the first ever diss track.
Yeah, totally. While all of this was going on, up north in Massachusetts, the witch trials of 1692 were taking place. So it was a very tense time to be
bet.
living in the New World.
Also, everyone's eating that moldy psychedelic rye bread.
Oh,
Everyone's just tripping
tripping
balls.
balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Daniel.
Leeds made his reputation worse with the colonists when he became a counselor to the newly appointed governor of New Jersey, Edward Hyde Lord Cornbury. Cornbury was hated by the colonists. He was seen as a spendthrift, unjust, and there were some rumors going around that he was a cross-dresser. Although those were probably fabricated because this was in the era of everyone talking trash about other people they don't like.
Right.
Not only was Leeds baiting the Quaker Church alongside other rebellious Quakers and anti-Quakers like the Anglican Church, he was aligning himself with the crown. He even urged Cornbury to overturn the election of 3 prominent Quakers into the town assembly. People began calling him a minion of Lucifer. His political rival, one of Caleb Pusey's most heated takedowns of Leeds, was entitled Satan's Harbinger Encountered, something by way of answer to Daniel Leeds. So
Wow.
he's literally being called the devil now.
Yeah, this guy's a rebel rouser,
Yeah.
somewhat like an Anton LaVey of back in the day. Like, he is just like
Yeah,
digging
but
his
then
heels
also
in.
he was loyal to the crown, and so he thought that, you know, the
Yeah.
colonies should belong to England. So
That is weird,
that was
too.
a really unpopular idea, you know, at this time.
Or he just
time
took
and
that
place.
position because he was rifting with
He's
the
just
Quakers.
trolling at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
By the early 18th century, Daniel was seen by the Quaker community as literally downright demonic. Finally, in 1714, an exhausted Daniel Leeds set aside his pamphlets, handed over the publication of the Leeds Almanac to his son Titan and his other son Felix, and retired. In 1720, when Daniel died...
Here, take my problems.
I'm done now.
I know. All those wars, they just led to nothing. He just died. He was just like... It all kind of fizzed out over time. Like nothing really ever came of it. In 1720, Daniel died, and his son Titan continued to publish the Leeds Almanac, following his father's footsteps. The Quaker schism and the pamphlet wars were long over, but the damage to the Leeds name had been done, and a competition in the Almanac game brought Titan face to face with the biggest social media troll of all time, none other than founding father Benjamin Franklin.
In a way.
Dude.
Titan and Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Franklin had gotten into the Almanac game in 1732 with Poor Richard's Almanac,
Right.
and took aim at putting his biggest competition out of business. Poor Titan never really stood a chance, as Franklin's historic wit came after him, teasing him for his continued use of the zodiac and astrology in his almanac. And in one instance, Franklin writing as the meta character Richard Saunders. So he wrote the almanac as the character Richard Saunders,
Right.
Poor Richard's Almanac. Franklin jibed that his astrological chart predicted that Titan would die on October 17th.
Oh, no.
But Titan disagreed, claiming his stated that he would die on the 26th.
Which?
Mr. Franklin, can we get you?
Yes, of course.
Yep.
Which of us is most exact? A little time will now determine.
The whole gag was meant to just show how foolish astrology was in Franklin's opinion. When Titan did not die on either date, the much less folksier fellow and unequipped to yes and his competition, Titan responded with, "Franklin has manifested himself a fool and a liar," to which Franklin responded,
Titan Leeds is too well bred to use any man so indecently and so scumulously.
"Scurriously.
Curiously.
Since Titan was such a good man, he couldn't have possibly written this rude response. He must be dealing with his evil spirit." This was a gag that Franklin kept running in Poor Richard's for months.
I say, having received much abuse from the ghost of Titan Leeds, who pretends to be still living and to write almanacs in spite of me and my predictions, I cannot help saying that though I take it patiently, I take it very unkindly, and whatever he may pretend, it's undoubtedly true that he is really defunct and dead.
Thus, Benjamin Franklin went on to further associate the Leeds name with devilry, this time in a much more humorous manner.
Incredible.
And he really went after Titan Leeds. Like, he did not let up on this guy. And Titan he was very much into science and astrology like Daniel Leeds, but he could not deal. He
With
was
Franklin's
he did
mind,
not
yeah.
like he didn't want to engage with any of this stuff. He really didn't have that part of his day. He probably watched it, consume his father, and he was like, I don't want to get into it with this guy.
Yeah, no. No.
It just like blows my mind that even just all the way back to then, the
Yep.
advent of mass communication was just petty trolling.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's like, what are we going to use this for? And they're
Yeah,
like,
this is
that
why-
guy's stupid.
Yeah, that guy sucks.
Yeah.
That we're still living in it now. Like, it's the same shit. It's been this way for hundreds of years.
Unbelievable. But if I'm to understand, so this rivalry between Titan, Daniel's son, who's trying to keep this almanac going, and Benjamin Franklin, he's sort of quipping him about this like astrological death date.
He's making fun of him.
And so this starts the thing where like, oh well, then you're probably dead anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so you're a devil.
Yeah, he's like, my prediction was obviously right.
Yeah.
Because he did die, because he's making fun of like him for him calling him out. Wow. And he's like, well, the Titan I know wouldn't be this rude, so
Right.
this must be his evil spirit. He must be dead. And so he for months was like, this guy is a reanimated corpse. He basically called him a zombie.
Pretty legendary troll.
Yeah.
Well, and also it has like a direct connection to sort of, I'm guessing, the legend of the Jersey Devil.
Well, and also think about it.
Because this is a forefather of our country,
Yes.
now directly related to a
Yes.
cryptid.
Think about what impact in today's world a politician or a prominent politician or let's say president has on the beliefs of his followers, right? We see it. So if someone like Benjamin Franklin, who is getting more and more popular and was gearing up to basically help lead the American Revolution and establish the United States, like people who were highly superstitious, who were not literate themselves, who also believed very much in witches and devils, probably believed that this Leeds family were
didn't get the joke.
literally demonic.
Yep.
It had a real impact.
Yep.
I mean, they were burning women,
Of course.
up in Massachusetts, just a couple decades earlier for this shit.
Yeah, it's not hyperbole.
No,
It's
yeah.
literal.
I think
these
some
are
people,
witches, we burn
yes,
them.
and it really would tarnish your reputation.
That's crazy.
Of course, he's just doing it to be funny and put his competition out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During his battle with Ben Franklin, an image appeared that may have helped link the Leeds name to the Jersey Devil. While publishing the Almanac, Titan changed the masthead to include the Leeds family coat of arms, the family crest, which included the image of a cockatrice, a dragon-like rooster complete with leathery wings, not too dissimilar than the traditional form of the Jersey Devil.
I feel like cockatrice needs to end up on the
Cockatrice,
Yes.
cockatrice. I
Never
don't know if
heard
it's
of
trice or tris.
Cockatrice.
Thrice.
Titan died in 1738, pretty much coinciding with the year that Mother Leeds had allegedly given birth to the monster. So 1735, the story said, he dies in 1738. So Regal and Esposito were like, this can't be a coincidence that around the time Leeds dies, this legend is suddenly born that a Leeds family gave birth to this monster.
The time Titan dies.
Yeah, it's right around that time that the story starts going around. But that story really wouldn't become mainstream for almost a century. The origin of the Leeds Devil, like the creature itself, is a chimera. Take a bit of indigenous mythology, mix it with folklore of the time, add in a heaping scoop of religious paranoia, and give it the name of an unpopular political figure accused of devilry, and you have a monster. But the thing is with monsters, once you create them, they take on a life of their own and they run rampant. How did the Leeds Devil become the cryptid known today as the Jersey Devil? And what are people seeing in the Pine Barrens? We'll explore these questions and more in part 2 of the Jersey Devil.
Fantastic. Well done.
Well done. Well
Thank you.
done.
Love it.
Cool stuff, right?
Yes. I love history.
I do too. This is great. You should do like an American history through the lens of cryptids class.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I feel like this kind of falls in line with the History of Bigfoot series we did last summer.
I think so, yeah.
Because here you have, I mean, this is kind of like, this is what I always believe the Jersey Devil did not really be an actual thing,
Right.
That it really was just
a collection
born
of
out.
stories.
Yeah,
that
it was just born
created
out
the
of this character assassination on this family, right?
Yeah.
And there were already stories going around of people who were heretics, who were giving births to monsters, the people were witches. So it kind of all adds up that people would go, yeah, that Leeds family, that Mother Leeds and Captain Leeds, who over time we can see didn't really, those characters didn't specifically exist. And especially when you tie in the visual of the masthead, the coat of arms with that has sort of a figure on it. You mix all this stuff together, and that's when you sort of forget. You just remember the monster. You don't forget. You forget why the monster was created or how it was created in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll see in the next episode, this shit lives on, and it really takes on a life of its own. And people like Sonny Z driving through, Route 9 of New Jersey, they see shit.
Yeah.
And I have a theory. We'll get into it. I have a theory that a lot of the Pine Barren stuff, to me, feels a little bit more like Bigfoot activity.
Interesting. Well, I love that, this rich sort of origin story of this Jersey Devil, and so now that we know how this came to be, but I also like the idea that doesn't mean that people can't be seeing it today as some type of a topomagic or egregore or this energy that was built on this legendary story of the Leeds and Franklin and all these kids. and these mystical experiences and the fight with the Quakers. It's fantastic.
Cool stuff,
man.
History's fun.
This is the original meme and this little devil guy.
It really is. Yeah. It's all, this is like, all this stuff was just memes back then. It's just all like culture spreading, you know, like virus. It's crazy.
Cool.
Love it.
Cool stuff.
Excited
all right.
for part 2.
All right,
Me
everybody.
too.
Stay tuned for that. Before we go over to Collector's Corner, why don't we swing by and thank some Club Scouts who have recently joined us on BCC The Other Side.
Let's do that.
All right. Let me pull up our list because I forgot to put it in there. You guys want to vamp while I'm doing
Yeah,
this?
absolutely. You know, if you're thinking about coming over to the other side, you really should, because it's just such a small fee, and it's really, it's the way that we're able to sort of keep going with this show.
This keeps the lights on.
Because this is a labor of love. We do it for you guys and for us, and that's sort of a way that we can continue to do it. So, you know, help support small artists. That's us, man. And you can do it with just a nominal fee of like $5. Or if you really want to jump on, fucking get Riley's Cosmic Tracks and join that Cosmeteer
and
level.
ad-free episodes.
Yeah,
you
dude,
can hear
get that
this
vibey
episode.
hot bath music, which I love listening to in a hot bath.
Man,
All
you
right.
slipped in that soft sell so easily. You could fully do a QSC. They just hand you a product, and you're just like, look at this knife. Look at the blade on this.
All right, well, let's thank some people. Garrett Jones,
Thank you.
Yegi,
Thank you.
Daniel Seiden,
Thank you.
Sarah Davis,
Thanks, Sarah.
Aaron About S. This might be a typo. This might have been an autocorrect. Sorry, Aaron.
Thank you.
Amber C. Oh, wait, Amber, Cosmeteer.
Oh, thanks, Amber.
Oof, I'm
Welcome.
having a rough one today, guys.
That's okay.
James Burke,
Thanks, James.
Ryan Falcon, Cosmeteer.
Thank you, Ryan. Welcome.
Dylan,
Thanks, Dylan.
Sot Jin, Cosmeteer.
Thank you, Satjin. Welcome.
Tiny Plastic Dragon, Cosmeteer.
Yes,
you, Tiny
thanks,
Plastic Dragon.
Plastic
Welcome.
Dragon.
Juliana Alvarez Medina, Cosmeteer.
Oh my God. Thank you, Juliana. Welcome.
Joseph Brack,
Thank you.
Daniel Klinger,
Thank you.
Mitch, Cosmeteer.
Thanks, Mitch. Welcome.
B, the
Thanks.
letter B.
Thanks, B.
And Bren McKenna, a.k.a. Schrodinger's cat dealer, Cosmeteer.
Oh,
Favorite
yeah,
name of the week.
I recognize that name. I know who you are.
Oh,
Thank
right
you
on.
and welcome.
Sorry, Aaron, I lost your last name there. I owe you one. You can join all of our friends over at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club. BCC The Other Side. You guys heard Bryce talk about it. Boys, what are you currently into? What are you reading? What are you watching? Are you collecting anything? What do you got?
You starting? You want me to start?
Oh, you start, Riley. I think I have something in my notes field.
Okay, so I've been doing this thing lately where I get in little books from big authors, so I could kind of get a little dip your toe in. So I just read Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, which is like, it's a very short book, because you think of Dostoevsky, you're like, oh my God, what a like burden to bear. You know? But it's a great little. I really recommend it. It's really good. I got it from Book Soup over on Sunset.
I love Book Soup.
Such a good bookstore.
Book Soup's the best fucking
If you're
bookstore.
in LA, go there, because they have all these staff recommends. That's how I found it, and they write a little blurb about it. It's just such a great bookstore. So that recently, but the other thing that I really feel like I should talk about.
I love that idea though. Like you can read a full book by a classic author. You don't have to like
have
get
to
one
hit
of
the
the
big one.
500
Yeah,
you just
page
get
a little
books
one.
and just go for it.
So now I just started Demian, which is a Herman Hesse book, who wrote Siddhartha. You know, and I've only ever read Siddhartha. And I was like, oh, I should read another one of those. And it's like a short book, and I'm really into it.
I love it.
Translation from like 2013 or something.
I love
good.
it.
But the thing I really wanted to talk about is that I had a reading with Ken.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And it was, so just right off the bat, I will say, in the case of Tarot, Ken Boggle v. Riley Bray,
Yeah.
Ken definitely wins.
You know what? I love this. Let's talk about it over on the other side.
Okay.
Let's
Right.
hear the but
We'll get
you-
into it. But in a nutshell, like, he gave me a mirror reading, and he just like peeled back the layers of who I am to like such a core degree.
Wow.
And we like got into some like very heavy stuff, and like a very like profound and honest conversation, followed with like very practical wisdom
I
of just
forgot that
how
you
to
guys did this. I meant to ask
of
you.
life.
about this.
Reading with Ken.
And
He's
Ken-
great.
Ken is nothing short of a wizard. That
Yeah.
man is amazing.
He's
So-
great
Okay.
and
Yeah.
reasonably priced for what he does too.
Okay.
I was kind of shocked.
Just what I mean, yeah. So he wins.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Great.
I am very thankful. I felt like I got out of like the best therapy session you could have ever had.
I did too when I did too when I
was
did my
wild.
reading with him.
Okay, that's it.
He was great. You'll love it.
I'm
You'll love
booking
it,
with
Bryce.
Ken.
Yeah,
Michael, what are
deeply
you
appreciated.
collecting?
Well, collecting wise, I'm trying to slow down a little bit because I'm running out of room and running out of money. So I'm trying to pump the brakes a little bit. But I am still going strong with Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm happy to announce I'm in a throuple now.
Ooh, spicy.
Shadowheart and my Celadine Drow paladin became official.
Congrats.
And then
Yeah, right
my hunky druid, this guy Halson, pulled me aside and he's like, I really want to have sex with you. And I was like,
What is this video?
I was
game?
like, I go, well, I can't, I would, like, I had the option to be like, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested because we had been kind of flirting. And I was like, but I'm in a relationship. And he goes, well, why don't you see if she's okay with it? So I went over to Shadowheart. This is all happening at evening time at my camp. And I go over to Shadowheart and I'm like, hey, Halson's interested, but I wanted to clear this with you first. And she's like, well, lucky for you, I'm open to it.
Oh my
And she goes, go for it. Why? She was like, are you gonna not climb that mountain? Go do it. And she goes,
Wow.
And she was like, and make sure you remember all the details so you can tell me later.
Oh my
And I was
God,
like,
so
holy shit. So
progressive.
then I go back to Halson. I'm like,
it.
I got the green light from Shadowheart, and it cuts to like a full-on fuck session in the woods. He like went down on my charter.
What game is
And
this?
This game is
Baldur's Gate
insane.
3, that Dungeons and Dragons game that I've been
Oh
playing
my
for like the
God.
last 2 months. I have video of it. I'll show you guys. He goes down on me, and then or my character, and then they start making out up against a tree, and he gets so excited that he shapeshifts into a bear.
No.
And then he's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, hey, man, I see it as a compliment. And then he shapeshifted back into a human. And then he just like fucked my character on the grass.
Wow.
It was wild.
Video
What a
games have
time
come
we're
a long
living in.
way.
It is wild. Wow. So yeah, now I'm in a polyamorous relationship with a half elf and a druid shapeshifter.
Cool. Good for you.
Yeah.
There's no fucking
for
way
you.
I'm following that. Show's over. Have
Go
a
to
great
bed.
week, listeners.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you over on the other side. We're going to be talking about the movie No One Will Save You. Finally talking about that movie. Bryce finally watched, I think, most of it. Maybe not all of it.
Maybe.
He probably saved it for last minute.
Fucking good,
If
though.
we don't see you
Holy
over there,
shit.
we'll see you here next week for an all new episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club. Until then, good night.
Yeah, thank you, Club Scouts. And go get re-rest.
So smooth, they just dropped.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray and Michael McMillan and scored and engineered by Riley Bray. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. Do us a favor and support the show and unlock 3 bonus episodes every month by becoming a member of our Patreon, BCC The Other Side, which can be found at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club.